gentleman that's going to be joining him yesterday.
Yes.
Had a great conversation with him. In fact, should we play that piece of audio from him now?
Yeah. It's not ready to go.
It's not ready to go yet. All right, we'll do it in a moment. But you can get tickets to go see the show at the at the Miller Theater at ensembleartsphilly.org. It is a book tour, essentially, about the book Remain, which these two collabed on, which is pretty awesome. So we had Nicholas Sparks on yesterday. Today we have M. Night Shyamalan joining us. Hey, Night, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I miss you guys.
We miss you, man. It's good to see you once again. And listen, we had a great conversation with Nicholas yesterday. It seems like you guys got along great, and this was a real easy collaboration together.
It was. It was kind of, I didn't know how it would go. We're both kind of lone wolves.
Yeah.
And so it was a tricky one. He was in my heart for a long time because when I don't know if he mentioned this to you, but when I was a kid, they asked me to adapt The Notebook.
Yeah.
And that's so I only knew him from that, like that name of, this guy who wrote The Notebook. And I seriously thought about doing it. And then I ended up doing Sixth Sense instead of doing that. But he always stayed with me. And then, cut to now. And he reached out and said, hey, should we do something together? It was kind of returning back to being 25 years old.
Well, it seems like it dovetails perfectly because we were talking with him about you and your multitude of attributes when it comes to storytelling. And there is a heartfelt romanticism to a lot of what you do. And then he had, he talked about an interest in flirting with what is classically associated with the M. Night Shyamalan side of the more otherworldly aspects. And when those things are brought together, I brought up Richard Matheson, who I think is one of the great writers who could do that, through his various works. And so doing this together, the process was fascinating because you both sort of pitched each other on the idea, and your idea won out, correct?
He's so gracious to even bring that up, but that is what we did. He came here to this room right here, and he flew from North Carolina, and then we came and we pitched some ideas. And I said, I had this idea, because as soon as I heard he wanted to do something, I was like, I wrote down this really quick sketch of an idea and sent it off. And then he came and I pitched mine, and he pitched his, and he said, well, let's do yours. Yours sounds really great. And
that's great.
Great.
Well, I was curious about that, Night, because when you have two people who are as accomplished as you are pitching ideas, at some point you have to go like, I don't really like that, and is that tough to do?
He was so gracious. A little bit of it was like, hey, two NBA players being like, hey, let's just go into the gym. No one's around. Let's play one-on-one. So,
right.
It was a little bit of that, but it was really sweet at the end of the day. And that's what I was most astonished about, because a lot of times, as you guys know, it's tricky because a lot of people are energy vampires, and they try to undermine you in the way they lean and the way they're conveying their thoughts, and then you start to lose your own confidence in yourself. That wasn't the case. He was a real cheerleader from go, and this is a very unusual situation that we took a story that we came up with. And he wrote a novel and I wrote a screenplay. The movie's done. We shot the movie. The book's not out yet. I don't think that's ever happened.
No,
wow.
It is amazing, and it's, you don't want to call it a gimmick because it's not, but it's a cool aspect of this. You have obviously in your career, Night, you've done some screenplay writing, mostly obviously for your own work. But had you ever flirted with the notion of writing a novel yourself?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. And I talk to publishers, and they've asked me to write, a book for a thriller, and I've thought about it. And in fact, I have so many that I'm like, okay, that's the one. I'm going to take 6 or 8 months off from movie making. I'm going to write a novel. That's what I'm going to do. But I'm so kind of, since 20 years old, every morning, get up, make movies. It's so hard to play a different sport.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to do it. So I'm terrified. Basically, I'm a coward. That's what
I get that. Yeah.
Night, you mentioned Sixth Sense. I just watched it for the first time in a while. It was on TV the other day, and my youngest and I were watching. There was an interesting little note that the woman, the actress who portrays the woman who gets killed on the bicycle, is my youngest drama teacher or acting teacher at Montgomery County Community College right now, which I thought was pretty neat.
What?
Yeah, it was really cool. And like that's one of her claims to fame.
Oh,
still.
that's wild.
But I wanted to ask you about, because this new film you've shot in Cape Cod is what I read. Kind of stepping outside of this familiar territory that you shoot a lot in.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love about your work is making the environment part of the story. You know, it looks so lush and beautiful the way you shoot. Cape Cod had to have lent itself to that, I would assume.
Yeah, when we came up with the idea, I felt I saw the movie in a home that was on a cliff on a kind of island, and so we shot it actually around in Providence, Rhode Island.
Gorgeous.
Around Rhode Island. And so I needed that topography for the story to work. This kind of New Englandy place, and I have, if you come to my house, I have this. My prized possession is the Rebecca poster. Hitchcock. So that's down in the theater, and that's the thing that you see. If there's only 5 in the whole world, I have one of them, and it's like that movie is everything to me. And so the idea, that's very big inspiration for Remain, at least the way I saw the story. And so as I was interpreting it, I was going this way with it. And, we have the same characters and roughly the same plot in the novel and the movie, but completely our own interpretations of those characters.
So when you're collaborating on something and you're creating this story, and Stephen King did it for with Straub, I think it was, and this happened. It's happened occasionally. Obviously, we have people who are have their own distinct styles collaborating. How did you approach that process? Would one take a swipe and give it to you and revise, or was it literally in the moment coming up with the plot points?
It was so unusual. I don't know if it'll ever exist again, the way we did it. I started first because he was finishing up his other novel, and we had come up with the idea, and I just started to write the screenplay. So I was finished the first draft of the screenplay before he even started.
Wow.
Writing the novel. And so he had that. But it was basically, and again, he's so specific in the way he does things. So I don't think there's any same dialogue I think he liked one of the things that he's like, oh, I'm going to steal that line from the screenplay. And then, so we would go back and forth, and he would call me and say, hey, how about if I have the character do this over here? And then I was like, okay, great. I'm not going to use that. But yeah, that sounds great. Or he would do that and call me up and say, how about that? And then I'd say, ooh, I'm going to take that one. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put that one in the movie, that kind of thing. There was a late game one that I did right before we shot. I was like, he did this in the book. And I was like, I think that's the right way to go. I'm going to put that scene in the movie. And so it was this wonderful kind of 2 artists doing their separate thing. I'm cheering them on. Like, even the characters have slightly different backstories. Huh. They're not the same backstories. They have the same emotion, but they're not exactly the same. And even our towns, I even forget that he named his town where it's set something different than what I named it. So we just kept going. It's such an interesting
That is wild, because if it's supposed to, and Preston had alluded to this, you have 2 very creative types. It could be dynamite to have, no matter how confident you are, and clearly you have every reason, as does he, to be confident of your capabilities. But when you have a real peer say, I'm not sure about that.
Yes.
You have to, I guess, excise ego from the equation, correct?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's something I can't tell you about the thing, but there's a character's point of view that he went to in the novel that I am unable to do in the screenplay, and because of the format. So that I was jealous that he could do that in his format, because in his format he can tell you what the characters are thinking.
Yeah.
Whereas in a screenplay format, I have to show it to you. Right. I have to show you they pick up a gun, but as he can say why they're picking up a gun.
That's fascinating.
Thinking about picking up a gun and tell you why. So the limitations of each format is beautiful.
Knight, I wanted to ask you, did your daughter Ishana work with you on this film?
She came out and did second unit, as always. I do second unit for her movies, and she does second unit for my movies.
The reason I wanted to bring her up is that I've been working with her indirectly. She's on the board of directors to try and reopen the Anthony Wayne Theater in downtown Wayne, PA, and I just wanted to commend her on her efforts because it's a long, slow process, and it's such a gorgeous, beautiful theater that the intent there is fantastic. So it's really great that your daughter is involved in such, in my mind, a noble cause.
Oh yeah, no, I'm so happy about that she's doing. I want to open up more theaters. I want to open up a big theater downtown Philly somewhere and get back to this culture.
Yeah.
What
going to cinemas?
What theater did you go to growing up? What was your local?
I've been all of those on the main line. The one that you're talking about, me and my friend Andrew, we got kicked out of the screening because he, like an idiot, reached out to try to get free popcorn, and they kicked both of us out. And
Son of a bitch.
I was like, are you kidding? Like, movies are sacred to me, and this guy was just trying to be cool, and then they kicked us out of the Wayne Theater, and I was like, what? I was so angry at him. That was the last time I ever went.
Do you remember which movie it was?
What was the movie?
God, it feels like a Bond movie.
Oh, good choice.
Yeah, it feels like one of the Bond movies. Yeah.
All right, so really, what this theater has to do, and any theater, just provide popcorn free for life, and you're going to get M. Night Shyamalan to go there. No,
I used to go to the one in Ardmore. If you guys remember that one, there was one in Ardmore there, and I saw all like Fatal Attraction, all those amazing movies back then.
We talked to Kevin Smith, as a friend of the show as well, and he did a great movie about. About the movies and the movie theater experience and how important that is. And I can pick benchmark moments in my life by the theater, the look of the theater, and you attach the movie that you're seeing and how important that is. And you've always been a big proponent of the theater experience. And so how much, this wasn't the original question, but how much as a director, when you're directing, are you thinking about the theater itself, the audience, the confines, that whole environment when you're making directing decisions?
Entirely. I mean, that's what I'm doing. In this movie, Remain, we shot. I don't want to get too technical on you guys, but we shot a good chunk of the movie in a format called VistaVision.
Yes.
Yes. PTA just did it with One Battle After Another. He shot the whole movie in that. So we shot it on this very, very old cameras. And the format will change when you're watching the movie. If you go see it in IMAX, it will go change for a particular character's point of view when you're seeing it. So like that kind of experiential thing when you're with the audience, and you'll feel it, like it expand, that the screen will expand, and it's so luscious. It's amazing. Those cameras are unbelievable. They're so old and they're so loud. I can't believe we got away with it.
I love that stuff. I love when they do. We were talking the people who are doing just did the restoration of they released the box set of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and in 4K. And a lot of times people will complain. Movie geeks like me, and I know you feel this way as well, will complain if the original grain wasn't captured or those things. But these cameras, so how do you handle something like that where you're shooting a movie and the camera's that loud?
It is you have to have a value system. I was explaining this to Nicholas Sparks when he came to visit the set. It's an equation of your value system. And for me, first of all, shooting on film, this is an old school thing, not digital. It's, normal film camera, you can do 400-foot mags or 1,000-foot mags. And 1,000-foot, you get 10 minutes of time to shoot. And you have to stop, okay, here we go, everybody get ready. And then we go action, and then you hear brrr, and the camera starts, and then you have reverence for what's happening. Okay, cut. Okay, everybody's is digitally just gonna go forever.
Right.
But with VistaVision, it goes twice as fast. It's on its side and it's going twice as fast. So it's so loud that you have to go, the sound, like in One Battle After Another, I don't know, they must have done what we're doing. You have to EQ out that sound. It's very loud. So you're losing that tone in the dialogue. And so it's a sacrifice you're making.
Well, and your films have a lot of where silence is part of the tension.
Yeah.
And that's got to be a challenge.
Oh, it's a challenge. But I'll tell you, it's stunningly beautiful.
Awesome.
It's so beautiful. The movie that's upstairs that we're editing, Remain, it's one of my, I can't wait for you to see it. It was magical from working with Nicholas from the beginning. I don't know, maybe it was just, coming from a place of this guy, meaning Nicholas, wanting, what he represents, love and relationships and things like that, and then aiming at that as a North Star. But for whatever reason, it had a magic to it, to the whole process. So it was, I can't wait for you guys to see it. It comes out 1 year from now.
Oh, my God.
By the way, Nicholas, when we had him on, mentioned being on set with you. I'm going to play just a little clip of what he had to say tonight. So here it is.
I think people will enjoy it, and I think they're going to love the movie, right?
Yeah.
I was there on set. I saw the dailies. I wasn't there the whole time, of course. I didn't want... I can be a distraction on the set, so because I don't have a job.
Yeah.
Just sit there and eat the catering food, and everyone, and people feel like Knight feels like he might have to talk to me, but dude's trying to get the cameras right, the lighting, get the cast, do the rehearsal. So, I limit my time there so he can do his job well. But, I've seen so many of the dailies, and the movie's going to be tremendous, too.
Yeah, he felt he was kind of getting in the way on set a little bit at night.
He was not.
But
he was a sweetheart.
But you both sort of said the same thing. And when I asked him, because, and complimenting his work, because stuff like that can get treacly and can get too maudlin. There's something he's never veered into that territory. His stuff has gravitas to it, and that's why it speaks to a lot of people. And you have the same sort of thing, but he writes in a very cinematic way. And I asked him about directing, and he says possibly, and you talk about flirting with the notion of a novel, possibly. But at a certain point, I think when you've got something that you're really jazzed about, you've got to be thinking, oh, movie, and it's hard to break out of that, correct?
It is. I have I have a few ideas for the next movies over the next few years. And one of them, I keep thinking, well, that one, maybe I should write it as a novel. And for whatever reason, I was like, well, maybe that one's the one. It keeps sticking in my head. I want to learn different muscles. They've asked me to write a play for Broadway for so long.
Wow.
And so that one, that idea of doing a play on Broadway, because I love the theater, and to try to tell the story with just dialogue.
Yeah.
Right.
How does one do that? Just the dialogue, almost, that's a beautiful muscle to build. And so I'm envious, I'm such an admirer of novelists, and Stephen King, and I always reach out to him, and I'm like, Stephen, can I come visit you? And he's very shy, by the way, and I was like, can I come visit you in Maine? I'll just hang out on your porch. You just come out and say hi to me. I'll just just be Indian dude on your porch until you just want to just say hi for a second. Like I'm that guy. And I recently got to know John Grisham, and so just the novelists are, I'm just so, we're similar in that we're, every day, I tell my girls this too. I said, look at like John and Nicholas and Stephen and myself. Every day, 8 something, we're writing.
Yeah.
It's not about do I feel like writing? No, we're writing.
Okay, so let me ask you. So do you think your writing is better, worse, or not affected when you just don't feel like doing it, but you have to?
It's just not like, that's not even in the equation.
Really?
It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. I mean,
it's not an option.
It's not an option. You just get up. You anything that you build that takes years to do. It's a process of accretion. So you get up, you learn something about it, and there's so much agency when you think of it that way. When you get up and you go, I'm writing from 8 to 11:30 every single day of my life, and so today I'm going to learn about this. And yes, you leave it. Sometimes it bothers you because it doesn't feel right. But that's telling you something. That's telling you something. You're abusing the characters. You're pushing it in the wrong way. And it's just a beautiful life. And then when we finish one story, we start the next one and do that over and over. My wife was walking around the kitchen yesterday with the swag from Remain. And on the end of each movie, I give everybody that movie's swag, and then on the back it's like a concert tee, and it says all the movies that I've done, and now you're part of that family. And she turned around and I saw all 17 movies on her back, and I was like, God, how lucky.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way, if you're just joining, Knight's going to be joined by Nicholas Sparks on Monday at the Miller Theater for a chat about both the book and the film Remain. You can get tickets at ensembleartsphilly.org. Let's talk about Jake Gyllenhaal starring in this role. Tell us about working with him.
You know, it was, I know it's going to sound like I'm doing some publicity thing here. It was so beautiful. I mean, he and I we're like best friends, and he's just the right guy at the right time. I think he's the one to take the mantle of the movie star. That's I think we've lost that there were no movie stars to take over from the last generation of movie stars. And, you know, the Tom Hankses and the Tom Cruises and all the Harrison Fords and all that whole group, it hasn't been replaced. And even the Julia Roberts and the Sandra Bullocks, they haven't been, where's that new group? And Jake, for me, is that person that can do the depth and the entertaining. When I saw him, and I've known him for a while, but when I saw him in Presumed Innocent, I thought he did. I thought he ascended into this place that we're talking about. When I wrote Remain, the first draft of Remain, I pressed save, and then we got in the car to drive to New York, and within an hour and something, my phone rang, and Jake Gyllenhaal called and said, "Hey, man, how are you?" And I was like, "What's up, buddy?" And then he goes, we were talking, and then he said, "I would love to be in one of your movies." And I was like, funny you just said that. And then I met him. I said, "Where are you?" And he's in New York, and I met him for tea the next day, and I printed out the script, and he didn't know this, and he was telling me how in love he is, and I was like, "It's funny, I just wrote a romance." And I said, "Here," and I handed it to him.
Nice.
And another Hollywood story is born. I just watched the movie he did years ago called End of Watch, and it is a terrific movie, and he's got that ability to do that with your super talented daughters. What's going on in their world? I did manage to see the Watchers, which I thought was terrific. And I thought, I mean, that's got to make you proud to see that kind of effort, and that kind of capability coming through your DNA.
Oh, well, I don't know about the DNA part, but I'll say my daughters are amazing. All three of them. They're all in the arts. Yeah, Salika's the singer, songwriter, and she's acted in Trap and all that stuff. So she has a lot of actually movies in development, strangely enough, that are now because of Trap. And then Ishana's writing away on multiple movies. So you'll see her next movies pretty soon. And then the little one's at Parsons. So she's in fashion. So
very nice. Yeah.
The art's everywhere in our house.
Love it. Excellent. Well, listen, Knight, we got to run, man. It is great to catch up with you again, as always. Want to remind people Monday you can go see Knight and Nicholas Sparks at the Miller Theater, ensembleartsphilly.org to get your tickets. They will go, so get them, because they're talking about the book Remain and the film Remain.
Here it is, boys. They can come get a signed copy of this thing.
Yeah, look at that. That is pretty nice. That's pretty damn cool.
Love it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, man, we'll hopefully talk to you soon. We didn't even touch on Shyamalan and all that. When that's coming up, let us know, okay? When you have full details.
Too much to talk about. I miss you guys.
Miss you too. Thank you. Night Shyamalan, guys. Right here on our very little radio program. So awesome, man.